I am constantly on the lookout for poets, chain-rhyming, 5-stanza-aligned poets, palming their pencil and notebook in back pockets, lighting up lines with the practiced ease of habit. I search for them in sunlit corners of trains, between shelves of public libraries. I find them pacing and waiting at bus stops, flicking ash and words onto paper. There is no mistaking the poet's scent, the tangle of joy and fear, to exhale a word and stub out the idea before the bus draws near. Sometimes I peer over the shoulders of strangers when I see them turn serious and begin to scribble, but often it's a list of things to do, groceries, accounts. These second-hand words are safe. They don't give me a rush from breathing in someone else's simile. Where have all the serial poets gone? Those who only smoke unfiltered, huffing hard packs of dense images that incite the potential to kill or cause immense emotion when the burning tip touches the fragile prose of skin. Breathe it in and out. Read it once and again until lips chafe, lungs burn, eyes gasp, red and dry. I want a poem to sear miracles, a metaphor in my brain. I don't want mental light concoctions with pop song end rhymes that carry neat little deterrents from the poet. No! I want a poem that doesn't bow to warnings, that knows it's dangerous and makes me dangerous, and therefore cool. I want to smoke a poem and make sure everyone knows every word I inhale is poetry, not prose. So when I first wrote that poem, almost 10 years ago, I had great difficulty finding poets in Singapore. Today, it's much better, actually, but still not so easy. But I'd like to ask a question. When was the last time any of you read a poem, bought a book of poetry, attended a poetry reading? You know, for some of us, the last time we had contact with poetry was back in school. So maybe, just maybe, there's a problem with poetry. Whenever I tell people that I write poetry for a living, they give me a funny look. And then they say, interesting, in the tone of voice reserved for people who keep 24 cats at home. Okay, so what is it about being a poet that makes people react like they've been hit by a minor lightning bolt, or question whether that's even possible? Perhaps for them, poetry is fearful or even painful. Maybe they were forced to write rhymes in school, and that wasn't cool, or they were made a fool for rhyming wool with stool. Poetry also has connotations of being difficult or highbrow, or as Singlish would have it, so chima. And yet, we all need poetry. Really? Really? You're clapping, but I hear you asking me suddenly, come on, Mark, do we really need poetry? Okay, well. William Blake, a 16th century poet and painter, once wrote the following opening lines to a poem: "To see the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour." You know, the beauty of the world is often seen in the smallest of images. A baby's lopsided smile, the sunset bouncing off a lake, a bird stretching sleep from its wings. And likewise, poetry is also essential in how it is able to wield and construct language and capture and condense images. It can also take in large abstract notions such as time and connect it to an experience of the present. But for centuries, poetry has been locked away behind universities and formal approaches to understanding it. But over the last 30 years or so, the rise of spoken word and performance poetry has transformed the development of poetry, has given a chance for poetic voices competing in the wilderness to come back, much like the Greeks had it. And that gave rise to the development of drama today. Poetry now has been found by a whole new generation of poets who write about the world in a diversity of voices and through a multitude of perspectives. For example, I write a lot about popular culture. I've written poems about a TV channel for dogs, about choco pie, about beards. So, for example, a few years ago, I learned that there is an official religion of file sharing in Sweden. It's called copimism. It's because it's very cold, so they can host the file servers down there in Sweden. And the Swedish word for copy is kopi. And apparently the holy symbols of this religion are the commands for copy and paste. So I give you my poem, O Holy Torrent. Please turn with me to the Copymist hymnal, page 404. And now, let us sing. O holy torrent, full of light and love, send us your blessed broadband from above. O holy torrent, from thee is born the seed, to freely share with everyone in need. Fellow believers of the Church of Copimism, all those who hold that copying information is a sacred virtue of file sharing, welcome. I bring you a message today on the need to share. Copimism is not just a religion, it is a relationship. The need to bond between the bits and bytes of our lives. Ours is a community that exists in fragments. We often see in part, but should the bandwidth open in our favor, we would be made whole. Yet there are those who come against us. They sue our generals and format our servers. Lord.com of Castle Mega Upload has fallen. Yet all the more will we pray to Saint Napster, patron saint of copimisers everywhere. For according to quirky, our most sacred manual, we have been released from the law, having died to that which held us captive, so that we no longer serve in the old way of the written code. For all we want to do is to release movies, music, and pictures from the curse of the law and redeem them by the grace of our holy torrent. All hail torrent! But beware, my beloved seeders, of those who do not give as they have been given. Yea, they are selfish leeches, hiding behind anonymous firewalls, keeping the bounteous blessings of cyberspace on their own miserable hard drive souls. Such sordid sinners have no place in the church of the torrent. For all information is holy, a communion of uploads and downloads, and when we share, it is like prayer, carried on the wings of angels to those who hold the ports open. Do you not agree, my beloved seeders? Torrents are our way of life. And let no internet service provider tell you otherwise. Let no recording company infringe upon our rights. Did God himself charge when he made the music of the heavens, painted pictures of the mountains, framed in full HD, nay 4K, the movies of our lives? No. So they can sue us with bills for cable, strangle us with fear and fable, but they can never stop the torrent. As long as the network binds us, as long as one fiber connects us, we will never go offline. Now, repeat after me the Cedar's prayer. Control C, copy me. To a place where I can be. Safe at rest, Control V. Where the seed lives through me. And everyone say torrent. What I was about to say was that for local poets whose Facebook feeds are full of other poets' events or rants, it would seem that poetry is really well and alive in Singapore. But for the man on the street, poetry is problematic. Here's why. We are a city of efficiency. Our policies are the politics of progress. But traditionally, the development of art is closely connected to history. But when our national narratives are constructed for us, we lose the shape of who we are and what we might become. Our art becomes state-defined, and a poet's vitality becomes vaccinated. Teachers who are untrained in the art and craft of literature break down a poem or a novel much like a comprehension exercise. But more than this dearth of writing, we have a lack of creative writing in schools. Vendors are given 2 hours a week to make students creative. But creativity cannot be taught. It can only be inspired, incited, invited. And its beauty lies in carving out the unexpected from the mundane in our lives. A couple of years ago, our Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Hsien Loong, was asked if Singapore could be compared to a cruise ship because she was so successful. And he vehemently replied, "No, we are not a cruise ship. We are a sampan," which is a small, traditional, flat-bottom boat. But it would seem, he added, that we are an upgraded sampan, a sampan 2.0. Dear Captain, when your father cast off from Kuala Lumpur and threw overboard the white man's burden, he told us to row, for our lives depended on it, not to look back should the salt in the air steal our tongues and dissolve our freedom, to trust that this is the course, that he would lead us home. Dear Captain, now we want to talk to our crewmates on board, but the winds of progress howl too loudly. We want to write poems on the floorboards, but they have to remain clean. We want to shimmy up the mast and dream to the horizon, to be fine and not be fined. But you say we must sail the straits time and again, lay down sand, expand our histories, reclaim our islands. You give us an education fit to drive the sampan forward, teach us new songs to sing, tell us that cruise ships are dangerous, that we have no rights to expect buffet lines or tennis jackets. So we become passengers with no access to the VIP lounge. We view the stateroom once a year on National Day. We have these quarters with small potholes that glimpse only murkiness. But you, Captain, you have people everywhere, bussed in, shipped in, helicoptered in. Are we then the ballast that keeps you afloat? Or do we get thrown overboard when we have lost our value? When we can no longer scrub the floor or bail water with our bare hands? Captain, we know there are others down below, but you don't want them to mix with the other passengers up top. Yet, when the sampan lies dead in the water, when cranes collapse and poles reveal our course towards unhappiness, who sets the shoulders to push? Who carries the bags of army boys? Who do your toddlers love? Captain, where is the kampong we set sail from? The simple port that sparked joy and life, a commerce of ideas, a wildfire in our eyes. Captain, do you know when it floods, the sampan sinks below the water line, but you have never defined when we should sound the alarm. Maybe not everyone below decks is in your manifesto, Captain, yet you tell us to work harder. You say, we don't wind our clocks to work, but we work like clocks, ticking off days like achievements, hours of good progress. We are minute men without second chances because you know most of all, Captain, that our mutinies have no bounty. But we just want to sail a while without being reminded that we are upgraded and have to run faster and faster to reach Sampan 3.0, where robots clear out food trays, where babies are made on demand, where we all take public sampans to work. Captain, you give us seawater to drink and tell us it has the lowest salt content in the world. Thank you, Captain. We know you care. So there is no problem with poetry. We are the problem. We are the problem because we're trying to engineer creativity in our lives. We are the problem because we are reducing space for literature from our schools. We are the problem because we fear poetry and its potential to define our world. But nevertheless, I invite you today to stand on the sampan of Singapore, version 2.0, dive into poetry, and together experience this undiscovered country. Thank you.